Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbighfir warham wa anta khairur rahimin. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside your very own, your very favorite Miss Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah, doing great. What about you?
Well, I believe that I'm doing wonderfully well as well, but it's just that that I'm still not in that routine of kind of waking up for Sahri and then waking up again for work as well. And I kind of thought that probably it will be a good idea if I can eat something around 12 and then probably fall asleep and never wake up till the time it's work. But I believe that my parents like me having on the dining table, and yeah, so sitting together having Sahri together is a blessing as well, because usually you do not get to be up at this hour of the night, and that to the entire family. So I believe that I'm going to cope up with my sleeplessness or the sleep deprivation I have for now. But ladies and gentlemen, whenever I think of coming out for you people, for all of those people who follow our show, who kind of write a lot of messages, so it kind of it gives me motivation, gives me a reason to wake up and be awesome. What about you?
Well, likewise for me, of course, and I think it's really sweet listening to this early in the morning, taking out time, especially enjoying or cherishing the time with your family.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would be really unfair for us to, keep pretending sort of about being really happy about opening the show. Unfortunately, just before we were about to go live today, we received heartbreaking news. And I think it's only pertinent that we share it with you guys. Our favorite religious scholar, who happens to be a permanent part of our Ramadan transmission as well, Sandhu Saab. He's here almost every other day for one segment. Just this morning, unfortunately, his mother passed away. She moved on to her final etobe. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. May she be granted a place in Jannah. Ameen. We need to talk about this because, of course, I want you all to pray for her and then pray for the sabr of the family as well. But Shahzad, it is commendable how still Sandhu Saab, because he made a promise, and because, it is a commitment, right? Talking to you guys, coming here every day, like you were just saying, sharing our information, and he's here to still fulfill that commitment, even after receiving this bad news, Shahzad.
And it definitely takes a lot of courage, ladies and gentlemen. It definitely needs a lot of patience as well, and people who surround you are actually looking forward to you while you're the son as well. So we were glad. Even though that we kind of mentioned to him that there was no need for him to come today, and we could have taken forward from whenever he was free, but he said that I made a promise and I had to come. So people who actually fulfill their commitments, ladies and gentlemen, have got different place in my heart and in the hearts of our team as well. So patience for the bereaved, ladies and gentlemen, and for everybody who's out there. There are a lot of people every single day when you log onto your Facebook. We know that we're starting on a sad note, and this is what friends and partners and colleagues and teammates and family members need to do as well. Share the burden. So we're glad that he's actually taken our time. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we would actually like to indulge in conversation with one of our very favorite religious scholars, and he happens to be Mr. Imran Sandhu Saab. Assalamu alaikum sir, subah bakhair. And बहुत अफसोस हुआ सर आपकी वालिदा का सुनकर, और हम सब उनके लिए दुआ गो हैं.
Inna lillahi wa. She was a very like my first and the first mentor, and she's trained me to fulfill promises.
True.
Although I had an option to go, but I would say a few words today and then leave, inshallah, to take her to her last destiny, inshallah. With this, I could just say that the Ramadan, there are two kinds of fasts. One is a short fast, and the other is a long fast. The short fast starts from Sahri and ends at Aftari, at Aftar. And during this period, we abstain from even halal things that Allah has allowed us to do in normal days.
The short fast.
The short fast.
Okay.
And these are the fasts of Ramadan, these are the fasts of Shawwal and the Nafli fasts. However, the long fast starts when a child is born in a Muslim family.
All right.
And it ends with it starts with kalima tayyiba, the sehri is kalima tayyiba, putting azan into and aqamat into the ear. And when a non-Muslim reverts back to Islam, it starts with kalima shahada.
Yeah.
And it ends in Jannah. When one person passes away, the real life starts after aftar. And you know, the invitation over there is by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And he awaits us at the Hawz-e Kauthar
It's a promise.
as promised.
Yes.
And when a Muslim passes, मौत क्या है, कहते हैं मौत क्या शय है फ़क़त आलम मानी का सफ़र. The real life starts. So it's a kind of judai,
To reunite forever.
to reunite with Allah and His prophets and Salihin. They're in Jannah.
Beautiful.
So I expect from my God, from my Allah, that He would welcome my mother in Jannah.
Ameen, inshallah.
With the pain and agony, she was there in the hospital, but that pain and agony also is a glad tiding for a Muslim. Though it's pain over here, but this pain relieves us of the grave sins that we had done and did tawbah on it. So while my heart also is very saddened today, but with this bad news, the good news is that she is entered her final abode.
Yes.
She's gone and met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's it.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Sandhu Sahib, I have to mention over here though, mashallah, this was just beautiful listening to it, right, Shahzad? It totally makes sense. And you have such a big heart. I cannot put myself in your shoes and be able to talk about it so beautifully. Continuing with our discussion previously as well, please add on to what we were already talking about, and then let's continue discussing how can we reap the maximum benefits or the fruits of this month,
Exactly.
Ramadan.
And before you do that, ladies and gentlemen, last time when Sandhu Sahib was on the show, we actually talked about fruits of Ramadan, where we
Yeah.
talked about taqwa,
Yes.
how we can analyze our own selves, how we can discipline our own self, how we can actually instill habits where we have a beautiful character, and how much humility we have in us as well. So today, we're going to move on towards protection. I believe that's what we'll be talking about. So Sandhu Sahib, please share your wisdom with all of you.
So the first fruit of Ramadan is taqwa.
Yes.
And taqwa, as I explained, is not merely changing how you look, how you dress up. But taqwa is self-protection, self-control, self-restraint, self-education, and self-evaluation. And when you go into this paradigm of taqwa and understand what taqwa is, the second fruit you will naturally get is protection. You protect yourself against all odds and all evils.
True.
How do you do that? Like, of course, Quran starts with ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And in this month, the Quran was revealed. So there's a connection between Quran and the book.
Okay.
Yes.
And then this book is beneficial to those who are with taqwa. And what is taqwa? To protect ourselves, to reflect upon what we should do and what we should not do. So when you read Quran, it tells you to abstain from immorality. You have to stand by the moral values of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And not only, you stand by the moral values of Islam, but also control your anger, control your uproar, control any stupidity that you see or you are invited to, and avoid all makruh, mashbooh, and haram a'mal.
What's mashbooh?
Mashbooh is like which is just on the edge of halal and haram.
So it's gray area.
Mushtaba, yeah.
Is it can we
Yeah.
refer to it as
when
a gray area?
When in doubt, to cut the short of the long is, when in doubt, don't.
Okay, okay, got it.
So anything you feel like your heart is giving you a fatwa that don't go about it.
Yeah.
This is mashboo.
Okay.
That is mashboo. So abstaining from even mashboo, that is the litmus test of taqwa as well. There are things, options, better, worse than options.
Yeah.
Azimat and rukhsat. Go towards azimat and do not take the rukhsat.
And just to have a clear mindset on mashboo as well. Now, Sandhu Sahab, what I really need to ask you is that, half of the time, we do things we know are halal, right? And then there are a couple of things which we know are haram. And, usually whenever you're about to do something, your mind or your heart will tell you whether it's right or wrong. But, there's still some things which we are like, they're not referred to as haram. And they might not even be halal as well. So probably we can go about it. So you're saying that, people who have the best of taqwa are the ones who will only stay with the halal side as well, not even go further beyond that as well, where they'll be like, hey, you know what, it's not even haram, so, what's the problem? Is it like that?
But also, does that make room for blurred lines to exist in the religion? Gray areas?
Yeah, gray areas are always there.
Okay.
And the more you are in your shu'ur, you are present in your mind, and you are
Mature.
alert. You are going, like, I'll just try to give you an example.
Sure.
Yes.
The example is when you are on a road and you see the light is green and you are passing by at the speed,
So yellow.
and and you keep going and going and going, and an idea comes in your mind like it is going to turn yellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a person with taqwa who's got respect of law, he's not going to try to cross it and cross the speed limits, and he's going to
We get faster though, usually.
yeah.
It's yellow, let's get faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it is jaiz at that moment,
Yeah.
but when he's about to cross, it gets yellow and
I
red,
get that.
and he crosses. This is not. This is against taqwa.
Okay.
This is against the respect of the law.
And this is to actually explain everybody that, we call it
Mashboo.
Mashboo.
mashboo. Yeah. So this is, ladies and gentlemen, mashboo, and, people with taqwa will not even go towards that. So haram comes later on in the
One more thing that I would like to add over here. This it's a kind of a technical thing, but people nowadays run after wisdoms.
Yeah.
They say, I don't see a wisdom in this order, in this law. This law is against the wisdom. This is not the case.
Or logic, probably.
Or they call it wisdom or logic.
Or it does not make sense.
As
to me.
Shaitan
Yeah.
said, "Khalaqtani min nar wa khalaqtahu min teen." You've created. He gave a logic, and his so-called wisdom, I would say.
Yeah.
But he did not follow the order
True.
to prostrate.
Okay.
What is the relationship between wisdom and order? We must understand.
Yes, please.
It will help us understand taqwa as well.
Okay.
All right.
And taqwa, and not only taqwa but protection. It will help us to abide by the law of the land and law of Quran and Sunnah. So I'll try to give an example again. The example is that of again a crossroad where there is lots and lots of rush and lots of traffic. So two things would happen over there. Either where there is a lot of rush or a lot of traffic, either you are going to end up in a traffic jam, or you are going to end up in an accident because of influx of lots of traffic over there.
Yeah.
You normally get accidents at those places.
Exactly.
So what happens is the government passes an order through the commissioner and puts a signal over there.
True.
The wisdom was, what was the wisdom? Wisdom was to avoid accidents and traffic jams.
Exactly.
And what was the order? Whenever you see red light, you stop so that the
Right.
traffic remains organized.
Yeah.
So people with less taqwa and less restraint and immoral values inside of them, they would say, if they pass by through the same crossroad at night, they say, the wisdom is not there, the rush is not there,
Why
the wisdom is
follow the
absent,
order?
so why don't I break the signal?
And I was about to say that as well, that, after midnight, even if you're roaming around over here in Islamabad, I think
And
people just...
a great accident happened few days.
Exactly.
A bad accident.
Exactly.
Because it was not the rush time, and he tried to, he broke the
Pass.
signal, and he crossed the wisdom actually.
Exactly.
But in reality, he had bypassed the order.
No, but we can...
So the same thing is with Quran and Hadith.
Okay.
We don't run after wisdoms. We know there is a wisdom in every order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Basic.
And if you are going to break those signals, those orders, you are going to get into an accident.
So, but don't
That
you
is
think that we're actually mixing two things over here? Because, at times when obviously you're very right that, that wherever we're going to look, we are going to see the blessings of Allah Almighty as well, the miracles of Allah Almighty as well, and the blessings and the wisdom. Now, what I want to ask is that, what happens is that a lot of times people or humans do supersede this wisdom, and it is to kind of have a good observation of what it really means. So now, seeking to actually get that certain kind of explanation out of that particular wisdom, do you think that even that's wrong?
What I'm trying to say is,
To have a better understanding of how things are.
what I'm trying to say is that we have to change our attitude,
Okay.
right? The attitude is,
हाँ, हर चीज को question ना करें.
no, question.
ये कह रहे हैं
No. What I'm trying to say is that if you know this is the order of the higher authority,
Okay.
this was the process of the higher authority, start, practicing that order there and then, where and when.
Okay.
But then also ponder on the wisdom.
Yes, I was going to say about 700.
Instead of doing the reverse order, unless or until I know the wisdom, I'm not going to practice. This is the wrong attitude. We are never going to understand a wisdom unless or until we practice it.
That is definitely true. But on the contrary, though, when
For
you say-
example, I will say, I'm sorry.
No problem. No, please.
For example, I would say, like doctors get 5 years of education,
yeah,
and then they are trained in house jobs. So if they start challenging the process, unless or until they don't understand the wisdoms, they are going to end up taking risks on patients. If a doctor comes in and says, so I would say that Taqwa is something that is submitting to the order of Allah subhanahu, the order of Quran and the Sunnah. So the correct attitude is, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that do this, we have to do this,
right.
and then also ponder upon the wisdoms as we always do. We fast, and then we experience, and we understand the wisdom behind the order.
That is actually what my question was, and you already explained it. Where you mentioned that pondering is something that is, first of all, allowed, and even in Quran it is mentioned to ponder upon things, to think beyond things as well, to use your brain. But my question was, again, you already explained that sometimes the hikmat of Allah or the planning of Allah is beyond our understanding. So, for example, if this is the slightest example that at this moment is coming to my mind, if I'm told to be fasting, I am fasting, and if I don't understand the hikmat of it, I'll do it because my Allah gave me the order.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do I get the do I get the jaza for just following the order without understanding the hikmat of it?
Wonderful question.
Wisdom or hikmat is experience,
Okay.
and submitting to order is obligatory.
Okay.
So you get reward for applying the order of Islam
Yeah.
there and then, with an intention that he is the one and the only, to everything reports to him, and the wisdom is the fruit that you get by applying that order into your life. Islam is not against wisdom.
Yes.
Islam is absolute wisdom.
That is indeed
And the
true.
best part is that, ladies and gentlemen, today we actually gathered to talk about protection, and, we still could move, ahead from Taqwa as well. So, I
It's
believe,
so
Sadhu Sahib, that
vast, mashallah.
the way you've explained our audiences, the way we have understood what taqwa probably is, the difference between halal and haram, and there's something in the middle which we know as the gray area as well. I believe that it will be much more easier for me now to kind of have taqwa within my own personality
I
as well,
know.
and the credit goes to you as well. So, sir, thank you very much for joining us. We once
Thank you so
again
much.
our dua go for your mother, and she's our mother as well. May her soul rest in peace, and patience for the bereaved as well. So we are going to actually relax you now as well, so that you can go and fulfill your duties as a son as well. Thank you very much, Sadhu Saab, for joining us. It was wonderful to be in conversation. Just give us a minute before we head out towards a short break, ladies and gentlemen. Mothers are really special, to be very honest. May it be a son, may it be a daughter. Because, once in a lifetime you get an opportunity that you're going to have a mother. And obviously no one wants to lose their loved ones as well. But this is how this dunya works, basically. And there's obviously wisdom behind it as well.
Definitely.
And Allah probably knows about it. And once we're going to go reunite, I believe that that's when we're going to understand it as well. But not just that, a lot of people have lost their lives during COVID as well, and before COVID as well. So speaking about that, one of our legendary actors, performers, drama artist, stage artist, writer, Mr. Muin Akhtar Saab's death anniversary, 9th death anniversary today as well. So we're even remembering him today. And Shiza, what's your fondest memory of Muin Akhtar Saab?
I think it is very right to say over here, like you mentioned, he is definitely a national hero. And I'm going to be very honest over here. I heard about him and his work from my parents, of course, and was exposed to him through that as well. And I was a fan after that. Shahzad, he was actually born in Karachi in 1950, and he stepped into showbiz in the 60s and ruled, well, many fields of performing arts, and we all know about it.
And Shiza, the best part over here is that since I've grown up watching his programs as well, and ever since I wanted to be a host or an anchor person, it is mandatory to kind of see Muin Akhtar Saab's work as well. And he started from theatre and then moved on to silver screen, and his work introduced non-stop laughter for everyone and became popular among the entertainment-loving audiences. And the kind of work he would do was so respectable. The way he would do was so magnificent and charismatic that we still remember him, ladies and gentlemen. May his soul rest in peace as well.
Amen. And he actually had a command in quite some languages, Shahzad. His performance was often in, well, Urdu, of course, but Punjabi, Sindhi, and Bengali for that matter even.
Yeah.
कानून से माफ कर देता वहां गवाह थे इकरार जुर्म था बेशुमार निगज मुजस्सम सवाल थी कि मैं मुंसिफ हूं या कोई और पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद
Yeah, so he was a great mimicry artist as well, and he did quite well as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're actually going to head out towards a short break. Once you guys will come back, we're going to talk about this earth we live in. And what are we going to talk about it? Well, that's a surprise. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Yes,
Good
stay
morning.
tuned.
Allah has granted us this month to purify our hearts from the blackness of sins that we have inflicted upon us.
In a polarized world, Ramadan reminds us that we are more united than divided.
Delving into self-exploration with discussion and discourse.
Staying healthy by learning about nutritious food recipes.
Ramadan is a time for humility and compassion.
Ramadan is a way of getting closer to God and developing a deep inner awareness of God's presence in life.
It is a time to refresh and renew our lives by returning and repenting to Allah.
With you, we want to make the most important moments of Ramadan unforgettable and eternal.
Together, we will capture the true spirit of Ramadan.
Welcome back to Well This Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shahzad Khan, and I happen to be Shiza Hashmi. Well, I want to say your very favorite. We're going to assume. Here's the thing. While, of course, the tradition of learning about the religion in this particular month does go on in the first segment, we are still very much dedicated to learning even more and enhancing our knowledge about things that are pertinent, especially to today's age.
Exactly.
Today, we are talking about something, again, rather important. Shahzad did mention that before we went out on a short break. Today happens to be World Earth Day, ladies and gentlemen. And while you think about it, you must think, oh, we have to go out to plant trees and take pictures in front of, well, pretty earthy places. You can do that, yes, absolutely. But there's a massive, massive reason behind the movement of it all.
Exactly.
It started back in 1970, actually. And Shahzad, you want to give the details of it?
Exactly, sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, this year around, since everybody's aware that, the pandemic broke out as well, so we are probably focusing more on, our recovery, first of all, and the recovery of Earth, our planet, which we live in as well. Not just that, adding on to that, ladies and gentlemen, it is very important to understand what went wrong in all of these years as well, and how do we really need to correct it for the betterment of ourselves as well, for the betterment of our future, and for the betterment of our kids, ladies and gentlemen. This planet needs to be a safe place because, where, the most developed countries are actually looking ways of going to Mars or other planets as well. I believe that the only choice we have right now is to make sure that this planet is a safer place for our future generations.
But Shahzad, that is the issue, when you talk about the most developed nations working on that, they are the reason we are today here to talk about Earth Day in the first place. All the industrial revolutions up until last century as well. They're the reason we have to talk about a cleaner air to breathe, I want to see a greener place to live and actually have the right kind of quality nutrients to even eat. So today we're talking about how to get rid of all of the menace that we as humans have already created on the planet, and then how to create the right balance between different ecosystems over here.
So being in the right ecological order, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're working on. But we have a small report, and once you guys will come back, we actually have a very multidisciplinary approach to this segment as well. So we will be sharing thoughts from the perspective of animals as well, and then from the perspective of humans and how we really need to coexist. So we're going for a small report for your awareness, and please go ahead, take something away from it as well. And once you guys will come back, we will have 15 minutes of conversation with the experts over here in the studios with us. So let's go, let's take a look.
Nature is suffering is clearly urging call to action. Australian fires, heat records and the worst locust invasion in Kenya. Now we face COVID-19, a worldwide health pandemic linked to the health of our ecosystem. The United Nations General Assembly proclaimed 22nd April as International Earth Day. The day recognizes the Earth and its ecosystems as humanity's common home and the need to protect her to enhance people's livelihoods, counteract climate change, and stop the collapse of biodiversity. The theme for 2021 is Restore Our Earth. Climate change, man-made changes to nature, as well as crimes that disrupt biodiversity, such as deforestation, land use change, intensified agriculture and livestock production, or the growing illegal wildlife trade, can increase contact and the transmission of infectious diseases from animals to humans, zoonotic diseases like COVID-19. Ecosystems support all life on Earth. The healthier our ecosystems are, the healthier the planet and its people. Restoring our damaged ecosystems will help to end poverty, combat climate change, and prevent mass extinction. We need a shift to more sustainable economy that works for both people and the planet. Let's promote harmony with nature and the Earth.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we truly need more sustainable economy as well to make sure that we can help everybody and the planet itself. And without any further ado, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by a public health expert. He happens to be Dr. Kashif. Hello, assalamu alaikum, subah bakhair, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum, nice to see you.
Wa alaikum assalam, and likewise, thank you very much for joining us. And alongside Dr. Kashif, ladies and gentlemen, we are very lucky that we've actually been joined by an epidemiologist as well, and he happens to be Dr. Muhammad Usman Zahir Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam and good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, I believe that Dr. Kashif, we're going to get the conversation started with you.
Sure.
Let our audiences know why are we observing World Earth Day, why is it important, and what do we really need to do?
Sure. For the World Health Day, as we saw in the video, it was very evident that it's the broader social and environmental issues that lead to the destruction, and most of these issues are because of man-made things.
True.
We use a lot of artificial fossil fuel carbon, because of which these events that we just saw on the TV, they just happen to be there, but a lot of them are man-made. We tend to work on a concept called One Health, where human health experts like us and veterinarian experts, which is sitting next to me, and environmentalists work on the same theme, which we call as One Health, because all these problems are interlinked with each other. Exactly. And they need to have interdisciplinary approach and action towards them.
True.
So that is One Health. One example of that is obviously the zoonotic diseases that you just mentioned. So zoonosis essentially means those diseases that get transferred from animals to humans.
Yeah, just like COVID.
Just like COVID. COVID is one example, and then we have other...
HIV even started that way, didn't it?
Ebola is there,
Ebola,
and then
yes.
SARS virus is there. We have seen massive epidemics because of these things. The other example of that is going to be antimicrobial resistance. So we both work on antimicrobial resistance, AMR.
Yeah.
It happens because of several factors, obviously because of irrational use of antibiotics and the way they are disposed of in the environment and the way they are affecting the Mother Earth. So there needs to be a...
Definitely.
Sorry, I think that, I might not have understood it really well as well, because you spoke about antibiotics as well and how they are actually having a negative impact on our Mother Earth. And recently I've seen that, there's been this drive where people have been against antibiotics and,
Exactly.
Other than doctor prescribing you, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, you're not supposed to take them. And we have this culture of having antibiotics. Yaar, 5 din ka course kar leta hu main khud hi se. So I believe that there might be some wisdom, some sanity behind it as well. But yeah, please continue.
No, that's true. That's completely agree with that. In the West, when you go for antibiotics, you have to get a prescription from a doctor. Unless you get that, you are not going to get that.
True.
And the antibiotic that they give is a very specific antibiotic. Normally they go for some testing for that as to what exact condition is required and how much dose should be given. In Pakistan, unfortunately, these things are unregulated. Anyone can go to any medical store and buy these antibiotics, and majority of the people do take irrational broad spectrum empiric antibiotics, which are not recommended. They should only be used selectively as advised by the doctor, rather than someone going to the medical stores and them. The problem with them is that when you use them excessively and irrationally, they are also being disposed of to the environment. So, for instance, in the hospitals where we work, we have a full supply chain of medicine. So, right from their manufacturing to their transportation and going into the hospital, and then all of it. On one side, obviously, it has the carbon footprint impact, which is not good for the environment. On the other hand, they do not get disposed of properly. So if they're not following the proper disposal of them, some of the active molecules of the drugs that are either unused or they are
so they can be harmful to
they
us,
can be
the
harmful.
planet.
So they can go into the soil. The plants and vegetables that we get, part of it, you know, the active molecules. So they enter the food chain, and throughout that food
That's
chain.
basically AMR.
Exactly. So
Okay.
And
that
that's
leads to resistance. Please.
Mr. Sangrasi, that's actually very nice of you to explain that, because I feel like, Shahzad, this is the first time we came around learning that there are negative impacts on the environment of the antibiotics as well that we use. But now I have to move on to Dr. Osman over here. First of all, while of course continuing with what Mr. Kashif already said, I want you to sort of paint us a picture of how is it actually engrave the ecosystem if we talk about humans differently and then animals itself? What is the situation of them right now? And then we're really focusing on interdisciplinary approach to
transdisciplinary.
yes, of course, approach towards saving the planet. How can we go about it?
Well, thank you very much, Shiza. Building on what Dr. Kashif was just mentioning about the One Health approach, the animals are an important component of the overall ecosystem that we live in.
Of course.
As a human, we have lived with animals, coexisted with animals for centuries, and we need animals for our food and for our other. In the past, these animals were also used for the draft purposes, where those animals were used in the field for some kind of work. But now, as we progress, we are relying more on the animals because of the fact that our population is growing extensively, and we are expected to have about 10 billion population by 2050, which means that when we have so much of the human population on the planet, it means that we will need a lot more food than we had in the past. So in a nutshell, in the next 30 years, we will need the food that we have produced in the past 500 years. So which means that this puts a lot of pressures on the animals as well. So putting that pressure on the animals.
And it's certainly us who are putting this pressure on
Yes,
them.
exactly.
Otherwise, dal bhi kha sakte hain.
I love that. But please go on.
Yeah, that's very good point, that we the humans actually sometimes put a lot of pressure on the animals. Like if we have to feed our, for example, people in Pakistan, we need intensive farming. When we have the intensive farming, it means that there are so many animals concentrated in one place so that we can get meat and milk and eggs out of those animals. So getting all that from those animals mean that those animals living in one place will be producing a lot of pollutants as well.
Okay.
We as a human also produce those.
Yeah.
Like though, for example, there will be some in their feces, for example, the stool that they pass,
Yeah.
that goes down to the earth. So what happens is, if there are, for example, the resistant microbes in those feces of the animals, those goes down to our groundwater. So they can contaminate those groundwater that we drink actually, and then it can again come back to us. So we will be, it's a wicked cycle that we are in. And again, putting it into perspective, for example, for the COVID. So we the humans, as we grow, so we have to expand. So once we expand, what we do is, we clear out the forests. So when we clear out the forest, the native animals living over there, the wild animals, we actually encroach their habitat. Once we encroach their habitats, those animals have been living there for centuries with their own ecosystem of microbes.
Exactly.
But when we go in, we get encountered with those microbes over there, which means we get those novel viruses, like for example COVID, we mentioned, and then the Ebola virus or SARS virus or swine flu. So we get all those viruses for which humans are not prepared sometimes. So this leads us to another important concept of that. If we need to control these diseases and live in a more sustainable world, we need to work at the intersection of humans, animals, and the environment. For example, we are conducting, in Pakistan, say for example, we are conducting research on humans, we are conducting research on the animals and the environment, but we need to bring all that together under one umbrella, under the concept of One Health, so that we can see how our actions are actually driving those and how we can mitigate those in a timely manner, so that we don't see future pandemics.
Yeah, and we hope that, you know, there's no negative impact as well. Very well explained as well. And, you know, in simpler words, ladies and gentlemen, what Dr. Saab is referring to is that, you know, we need to stop encroaching their natural habitat as well. But sir, now there's one more point, and very quickly, because we only left for 4 or 5 minutes as well. From you, I would actually want you to come up with solutions as well. But with you, I want you to explain to our audiences that, you know, you just mentioned that by 2050, you know, the global population would be 10 billion. Obviously, we would need, you know, much more of reserves for food as well. You know, we really need to make sure that, you know, we're working on dairy farms and things like that. But imagine that, you know, just in 2020, we know that, you know, just to milk a cow we really need to put in syringes, give them injections as well. And there might be a lot of microbes which we are gifting them by our hands as well, not just that. Imagine that, we go to get poultry chicken to make some chicken karahi at our houses. We know that, that whatever they have been fed, is not really healthy. And we see that, there are repercussions on the health of people and for that matter, humans as well. So imagine that there's so much dearth right now that we cannot find a desi cooker, which actually kind of complements our pocket. So imagine that in 2050 things would be more worse. So are we heading towards another disaster, or do you think that the world has started to work together towards its betterment?
Well, this is a very good question that you have raised. So international organizations, for example, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, OIE, which is World Organization for Animal Health, World Health Organization, as well as the United Nations Environment Program, they have come together and they have developed a consortium and a group where they work collaboratively and work on solutions. For example, one solution for enhancing the production of animals could be having high production animals, so that we reduce the number of the animals, but we have more production. Once we have more production, it means we are not encroaching, we are using limited space, but we are getting the food for the
for everybody.
For the everyone. So it means that in Pakistan, for example, we can work on genetic improvement of the animals, so that we have animals which have high productions in terms of milk, meat and eggs. So that could be one solution. And then, for example, we can also have some regulations. For example, if we are using antimicrobials in the animals, so we can use antimicrobials in the animals specifically for the treatment, control and prevention of the diseases, and not specifically for the promotion of the growth of the animals.
Exactly.
So what would happen is, all these actions, for example, the work we are at Fleming Fund we are doing is, in the animal health sector, we are trying to rationalize the use of antimicrobials in animals as well, so that the food we eat don't give us the resistant microbes. So we are already working on it. So I believe that we are heading towards a solution and a more sustainable world, and I think we expect that we will not see another pandemic if we continue working collaboratively in the future.
Well, inshallah, definitely. I don't think in our lifetime we'll see it again, because well, maybe in the next century. But here's the thing: I hate the part that we contribute so little towards the pollution in general, but we have to play a big part to save ourselves, not even the word. So, Mr. Kashif, I want you to give Pakistan-centric solutions, what we are doing, probably what we should do, and then is veganism or lab-grown meat, for that matter, an answer to our needs in the future?
No, I think he answered it correctly. No. So it's essentially these type of diseases that we are having these days. So antimicrobial resistance or polio or COVID are some examples that health is not just restricted to nations and regions. They are the global health problems that have to be dealt in, and there are internal health regulations that look after them. As part of this movement of One Health, WHO came up with global action plans which guided nations to make their own country-specific national plans. What we are trying to do as part of the UK Fleming Fund grant, we are part of the leading implementing agency is the DI where we work, and we have the leading partners like Aga Khan University, the Indus Health Network, they are our partners in Pakistan. And we have the best of UK expertise in the form of experts from Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. So basically, we tend to work on the solutions that are national. So we start with advocacy at the policy level with the policymakers, with the influencers. We tend to work with the national reference labs for all sectors, for human health, and we have for animal health different reference labs. We are trying to work also with the provincial reference labs. We are trying to build their capacities in terms of the trainings with regards to healthcare professionals, with regards to their laboratory personnel. We are trying to build up their national reference lab with regards to infrastructure. And then going forward, this work of ours is going to build the foundations of what is going to be the AMR. But as you said previously, that the solutions that we should be giving are much more bigger than that. So an example of it would be for the hospital waste, it needs to be pre-processed before it goes to the field. The same thing can happen with the fertilizers and other things that we use. So this antibiotic thing is a pandemic now, and it's going to be a disaster if it's not controlled, and it's a global issue rather than a national one.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation, and I believe that today we kind of understood everything very clearly.
I know, they're mashallah such eloquent
yeah,
speakers.
The way you explained it, I believe that our audiences might have taken something away from it as well. And ladies and gentlemen, please look into it yourselves as well, because we really need to work together so that we can coexist, and we're talking about humans, animals and the planet.
And this is why we were observing, along with more than 193 states, a World Earth Day, ladies and gentlemen. If you still have any questions, more than questions, I think you should give answers to your own queries by learning about the fact that actually, well, it is you whose existence is at stake over here because of your own actions as well. Well, if you have any suggestions, feedback, or still any queries, write to us to let us know on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all with the name of...
Well, this morning on your television screens down below over here.
Yes, and the repeat of this show you may be able to...
And the repeat will be at 5 past midnight, ladies and gentlemen. Till the next time, look after yourselves, and for everybody who's out there, please make sure that you remember us all in your prayers as well. Look after yourselves. Good morning.
Good morning.
Allah Hafiz.
Take care.